And welcome back to the hottest marriage show in our neighborhood. It's I, John D. and Kanika, a.k.a.
Yeah.
And Too Much Podcast. Good morning, my love.
Good morning.
How are you doing?
I'm doing well.
Are you?
Mm-hmm.
So I wanted to talk about how my wife.
First? How are you?
I'm okay. Well, I guess I was about to say I wanted to give you a shout out.
Yeah.
You put a lot of tasks on your plate, and the way that you put tasks on your plate, you do get bothered when things don't happen on your time, your clock, or the most appropriate time. But I'm watching this podcast room come together, and you're doing a really good job. It makes me feel like I'm so happy I married you just for this room, and it's not even done.
You're so dumb.
Now, I understand. I answered a question the other day. It was about what would you call this chapter in your life, and I said the eyes my wife gave. I just feel like I'm more of a balance than a man. I feel like I can, like when I have discussions, that I'll be able to make decisions that you would say, I understand why John made that. And you wouldn't feel like he's a man. He's like, John really made the best decision for all parties involved. And that is something that like I want to be. I want to be like, I guess the integrity aspect, like I don't want to feel like I'm being compromised no matter what situation. Yeah. But I'm good.
I'm glad to hear. I was like, he's really not trying to this okay, and then went right past it. But okay.
Yeah, because like this room really looks nice, and I just wanted to make sure. Sometimes when I get on here, I be so focused on the task at hand that I get lost in not giving you your public acknowledgement.
Okay, well, thank you.
Really, and not only that, you have done fairly well in keeping your promise to your health, with an exception of the increase of water. But I didn't even say anything to you, and I feel like today, you got to step closer to something that okay, I don't know if this works, so I need to probably do it to see if it works.
Yeah.
I think you were trying to do everything, but
yeah.
drink water. Like, I can figure this out. I'm gonna prove to the scientists you don't need water intake to be happy and fit. Now, I really wanted to talk about where we are in our relationship. I feel like we're in a place where we're really happy. We enjoy each other's company. And I was wondering, looking back at all the years we've known each other, what are some important key points to get us here that you feel like maybe overlooked in other relationships, because people will look at something when if you looked at this, or focused on this, it would improve? Well, first of all, do you agree that our relationship is...
Let me get a baseline. Do I agree what?
That our relationship is really healthy.
Yeah, I would say that.
Okay, so what does healthy look like to you, so that other people, like, because it's like you said, a baseline. What does healthy look like to you?
Okay, so if I were to say healthy, I would say there's a lot of communication. There's equity in the division of roles and functions of the relationship. Whoever is best to take over a certain role does, and support. And I mean that is in emotional. I also mean that as in completing tasks. I also, even if someone is the primary person over a role, the other person also understands that they're still responsible too. It's just a lead. There's a lead. Love. There should be love and respect. And I think they're supposed to, like, you could love somebody and not show them appropriate respect. Some people, I don't think that they can see them as separate, but I do. But I think that those things have to be together. Like, Love, respect, roles, and I guess giving the other person room to grow. Not necessarily the way you want them to, but the way in which they're naturally going, and being able to honor their decisions in the directions that they're going.
How do you know, though, like when they're growing in the right things? I do remember there was a time like he was like, John, maybe we're growing apart, and maybe you need to find somebody that is more into where you're going.
Yeah, I definitely did. I was like, look, find her and get out of my face.
But I mean, can you say that you were incorrect?
Yes and no. And that's what I mean by saying giving them room to grow. And because, you know, anything that is initially birthed is not cute. I don't care what anybody say, not even your baby. Like when they first come out, it's not cute. And I think when you started out on this new path you were taking, it wasn't cute. It was a big adjustment for me. I didn't like it. And a lot of it was not the end result that you were shopping over to me. It was the pathway to get to it that was really, really rough. And I think that I definitely had some moments where I was like, you gonna have to go find somebody who want to hear this. Cause it ain't me. But I think I allowed enough time. At some point I had just said, I'm not gonna say anything. I'm just gonna watch. And you
said that to yourself?
Yeah. It was almost like I'm gonna let him hang himself. Like I'm not even gonna tell him. I already told him that I'm not feeling this. He's gonna keep going, and then it's gonna come to a head, and then I won't have to say anything. But at the same time, it's like if what he says is going to happen, I would want to be here for it. I would want to be able to experience life with you like that. So we just going to see. And giving you, it was ugly in the beginning because I couldn't see what you were seeing and how you were conveying to me. It wasn't convincing. And I think we talked about before how like being with you in the beginning, like we couldn't laugh, we couldn't talk, we couldn't watch anything that was funny. Everything had to be serious, and that was not the life I wanted. But as you grew and then understood that you can also enjoy life while you're trying to fix whatever it is you want to fix, or it became easier for me to be able to interact with you. And then as you started to grow or develop more so, it was like I could reap those benefits and be happy where I was, because it was almost like you understood that you were going to have to meet me somewhere too. Like I'm going to have to loosen up these reins, or I don't know what it was, but the seriousness I just couldn't get with it. My life was already serious enough. You know what I mean? And if I can't laugh with somebody or enjoy life with you because I'm waiting for you to be this person so then we can enjoy life somewhere off in this time that I would never know, absolutely not. No, I needed immediate. There had to be something that felt enjoyable to me. So yeah, I had to allow for that growth, and I'm glad that we didn't have to stay in that serious space too long. I don't think I could have held out much longer. But it is important to understand people have to grow, and sometimes it may look like it's not in your direction. And I'm not saying some people really do grow apart. I do agree with that. But
that's true.
There has to be some grace to allow somebody to, like, a puppy is not cute when it first comes out. You're going to have to allow a little bit of ugly time. You know what I mean? And I think with everybody, when it feels like you guys are growing, just like kids have growth spurts or what have you, you got to give a little bit of time for everything to kind of settle in and see what it really looks like before you make those decisions to say, okay, I'm out or I'm in.
Yeah. Well, I'm just happy that that you got some type of results that made you feel like it was worth going. I haven't been able to like really look at the timeline of everything. But I'd look at where I was. It's crazy as it sounds. I was still right here. I'm still the same person. Like I can just see how much I've improved in other things. But overall, it's like I still see, like I'm like, she still don't even see. Like, so just imagine where we are. Like I still see these other things developing and whatnot. And it's a great feeling. So you said love, respect, and the time to grow. I really believe like disrespect has to be intentional. And when I hear that, it's more so, I guess, the rules of the game, where it was everything clear. And when I say that, when I see relationships that don't work, I don't know if they fail from disrespect, because it's another word. Because it's obvious that it's something was failed, some type of communication was failed, how you got to that point. But the reason why I'm asking, we're talking about disrespect. How do you recover from disrespect? Like, if you feel disrespected, like, what does it look like for you to, like, and it's not typically just an apology, is it?
No.
Yeah. So what is it?
It's number one, naming it, because what I've learned about you and I, even in a conversation we were having today walking, and yesterday, you remember we were talking about who's poured into you or who's influenced you, impacted you. You and I are the culmination of years and years of people impacting us, pouring into us, encouraging us, taking from us, and it makes us who we are. I think I've spent more of my life with you than without you. There's so much about me and how I read things and understand things that you don't get, and vice versa, because of all of my experiences and your experiences and things that you define as respectful or not respectful. And one of the important things, I think, is naming it. Like, I don't just assume that you know what I mean when I say that was disrespectful. What part of it was disrespectful? Like, was it my tone? Was it what I said? Was it me stepping on your toes about this particular topic? Like, if I said the same thing, but I was talking about this, would you feel disrespected? So with you, the first part of me in the respect thing is naming it to you and being honest with myself about what was it that made me want to be beefed out. Because it might be that I don't want you talking to me about this particular topic. It might not. You could have addressed me the same way about something else, and I would have brushed it off or laughed, or it wouldn't have felt like anything. I think naming it out to you first, and then feeling like, if I honestly tell you what it is, you taking the time to, like, acknowledge this is one of those things for her, and then the apology. Like, and you were talking to me about the apology and how it had to have certain parts to it. I definitely agree with that as well, because when someone apologizes to me and they have all the parts, like, I'm apologizing to you because I did this and I understand that it made you feel like that, and that wasn't my intention, but that was what happened. Though, putting all those parts in, number one, if that's really not what it was, then I could say no, but it wasn't that. It was this, and we can get clarity so it doesn't happen again. But if it is, then I feel like it's one of those moments where, okay, he understands, so I shouldn't have to feel like this again based on that. Respect it in order to be able to make sure that it stays intact between you and I, especially in those weird moments. There has to be that middle part where I'm acknowledging myself, okay, what is it that really made me mad? Because I can't just say, you can't talk to me about that, because maybe you can, and we did yesterday. You know what I mean? There's a certain part of the process where I have to be honest with myself and clear so that I can be clear to you too. I think that's a part of also loving you, because I don't want dysfunction with you and I don't want moments where this can repeat again. That's what I would need in respect. I mean, it's there are multiple steps, and that includes me. What about you?
What is your question? Like, what do you mean? What about me? As far as what I think is key elements to get, I was thinking about that. We could have gotten here sooner if one of us was a better communicator. And when I say better, establishing the rules of how we're going to communicate so that we can be on the same page. I think that you were a far better communicator than I was, but your communication wasn't good enough to make me want to get better. And you were just comfortable with me sounding like, it's like whatever cavemen say.
Well, I think the other part of that is roles. When we came into this, I felt like you as the husband, I was going to let you have this role of leadership, and I didn't necessarily know what that meant.
Yeah, and I was accepting it too because I thought I knew.
Absolutely. You grabbed that scepter, sir, and you you grabbed the baton and you ran with it. I definitely was like, he's supposed to be the leader. I'm supposed to be the counsel, and I'm going to let him lead. And that was a mistake on my end also because we didn't establish what is a leader for me to be able to say, because you're honest when you're like, that's not something I'm willing to do. Or I don't think you would ever said you weren't willing to be the leader. But if we,
because I thought I knew, I wasn't afraid because I felt like.
But if we were defining the roles, I think that there would have been bullet points that I would have had that you'd have been like, oh no, I'm not doing that.
Oh yeah.
And so.
But they would change now. Like looking at it then, I can tell you that of course I would have bullet points, but my bullet points now are totally different. Like I would kind of like roll with your bullet points. I don't know too many bullet points where I feel like you would compromise me and feel like I'm not doing that. You know what I'm saying? It's more so just ego. Like I've never done it before. Why am I doing it now? Or why can't you do it? This ain't nothing, So to me, I feel like before you're just trying to take advantage to get me to do more. But now I'm like, you just want the job done.
Absolutely.
I know.
But when we're talking about us, when we established our relationship, we got to put it into perspective that the last relationship I had been in before you, I was 19. I was like, I had no real concept of what role I was supposed to play. Or you. It was just those the little blinks of representation we would get in relationships in our families, which later I realized we weren't even getting the same representation. So we were never meant to be on the same page when it came to that. So even though I know you were, in my head I was like, John is definitely a leader. You would lead somebody into the fire, but you would lead people into good places too. It just depended on where you were, where your head was. And I just said, he's the leader. I think that was when we were younger. And then you hadn't even really been in a relationship. You had one relationship in college, maybe.
But yeah, I wouldn't even consider that a relationship either.
Then we go off into life. Who are we?
Yeah.
To decide, you know what I mean? So
we didn't even have enough practice for real to.
Between you and I, we didn't even have enough practice. Like we just hopped up in that mug and signed a mortgage and was like, "Hey,"
It's probably the ways you shouldn't get into a relationship.
And let's talk about the ways you're not supposed to do this. I did. I felt like I said, John has leadership characteristics, so he is the leader. When really, that should have been like, and that's when I talk about roles and really understanding and the fluidity of it. Like in the beginning, when there was rap, you and I didn't really know anything. And I was like, well, he's a leader, so let's go. We weren't acknowledging that as we got older and situations changed, maybe Kanika should be the leader of this task, whereas John should be the leader of this task. Or John is going to take over this, whereas Kanika's going to step back from that because that's not really her thing. It's realizing that there might be times where you will forever lead in that area and I will forever lead in this one. And there are other times where it's like, maybe this isn't something that you can manage right now. So it's something for me to do. I like that about us. I don't think I've ever seen a shift in roles with my mom in either relationship. Like it was very, very.
They do this. They do this.
Yep. And it stays that way. And I think one of the things with you and I is realizing also with this growth that I'm realizing that I'm getting stronger in this because I'm developing. Okay, well then let me step back because it seems that you know more than me. And then that's a lot of removing ego, like managing money or managing the household and understanding or cooking or even dealing with the kids in certain ways. Like today was a real, it was a real lesson for me because usually, you know, with growing up with the kids and taking care of them, a lot of the times I was the one who probably knew what to say in certain situations with them. And today we were having a conversation about the kids in which you were like, basically, you didn't say this, but it was like, I know more because I've been here and I see it. I can see more of these, more of the components that are taking up this space. So you need to listen that if you can't do this, then you should not do that. Like, you have to be able to and I had to sit there and say, okay, this is an area that I'm not familiar with, and I do need to listen to him. He knows what he's talking about, and I need to back off and just follow. And that's not easy for me because I parent the kids with heart and not necessarily always logic. But in this particular situation, I'm not as well versed in Darius's life and understanding community, because Lansing community is different than Louisville community. And the ways that, and we were talking about who pours into you and who influences you, because we're two people who have completely different makeups of all these different influences of us over our lives. And when I was listening to you, even though I didn't understand everything you were saying, like I was like, please give me examples because I don't know. I still recognize that you know. I just was trying to understand from my perspective because I don't know that stuff. And then you're like, yeah, you do. You just have to do this or you have to pull from here. And it really required me to check myself and saying, it's because you want to stretch when you want to stretch. You know how to raise your kids, but we have a person who is uniquely poured into and impacted by a lot of people, and you don't want to stretch. And that's not, in this moment, I had to step back and say, when it comes to handling the kids, you're not always going to be the one that's going to be able to say, well, we need to look at all the perspective. You have some biases too. And so you're going to have to step back and let him guide. And you know what that's called? Growth. That was a moment in roles that I had to take too, because I was like, you're not the one that can speak to this, Kanika. So you gotta back up and you gotta listen. And even though there are some parts that, like, I was gonna stand on the fact, I was like, I just don't know. I don't know. You said, yeah, you do. You just don't want to. You just want to do it the way you want to do it. And I was like, true. So fluidity, yeah, ego, all of those things is so necessary to understand that you're not always going to have the baton. Yeah.
Well, that was awesome because I didn't even know that until you revealed to the world. What? Like, it ain't like you revealed that to me out there when we were talking. So this is just new information that I've learned about you.
Oh, yeah.
Well, that was good to know. Look at y'all. Y'all, look, you learn something every day with the world. Anybody you want to give a shout out before we get out of here?
No, you.
Shout out to the kids. It's almost the end of the first part of this school year. It's like another 3 weeks, and it's been a really good first semester. So I'm looking forward to the next semester and enjoy it with them because the time is really flying.
Yeah.
Y'all make today better than yesterday. Don't worry about anything you can't control. GATA, get after that action, or that action will get after you. Be great on purpose. Boom.